Welcome back, Inebri-art. This is your host, as always, Andy. Today, we're actually joined by a musician. I feel like we haven't had a musician on in ages, but welcome to the show, Drew. Gonna screw it up, man. Like I even asked you like 6 seconds ago, Drew Beskin.
That's perfect.
Um, so I got to admit, I like right before you got on, I was just kind of going over the couple of notes that I had here, and I'm like Beskin, Beskin, and I had to do a Google search because I'm like, isn't that the chick from Tiger King?
Oh, yeah. Uh,
Do you get that a lot?
first of all, thank you for having me,
Oh, sure.
and to you and anyone listening, if y'all hear any like cooing, that's my 6 month old daughter who's sitting with us. So just to let y'all know.
I was
But
gonna leave that just so my editor was gonna be like, "What's going on?"
what is that? No, but with it's funny because my mother's name is Carrie, so that's Carrie Beskin, and the character from Tiger King is
Carol
Carol
Baskin.
Baskin.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there was definitely some fun with that, I believe, when at the height of its prowess.
that's funny. But that's not why we brought you here. You have a new LP coming out somewhere sideways, same as you. It's set to debut on September 23rd. Was this a COVID project?
Well, so it is. I guess technically, yes. I guess I feel weird saying it's a COVID project, but I guess it technically is. I released a record last year, which was my third album. It was called "Problematic for the People," and I was set to go record that after. I guess it was supposed to get recorded in 2020 around like March when everything kind of shut down. And up until that time, I had been really kind of nursing the um, songs that would be on Problematic for the People and demoing them and kind of practicing out with the band and kind of just getting really like thorough and plotted out before going to the studio because that's kind of how I'd always made records, which is like, get a week or two in the studio and knock out bass and drums first in the first 2 days and try and get everything else done. And then if you don't get it done, then you find other days to kind of get in the studio and fix it. And when everything got locked down in 2020, I don't think we ended up going to the studio for the Problematic for the People record around like July or August of 2020 once everyone kind of got their grasp around like protocols and stuff. And so we probably finished making that record in November of like 2020. And around then, in my mind, I thought the Problematic for the People record was going to be like my last record, like last like solo album as like an official like album. And after that, I was just kind of focus on like producing other artists, work with other artists, kind of doing other stuff, and just kind of releasing singles every once in a while. So, around like November of 2020, I wrote a song and I liked it. And I kind of hit up some friends that I've been wanting to do stuff with. I was like, hey, let's just like record this song. And we did it. We did it all in one day. And then, didn't really think much of it. Then wrote another song, did the same thing with the same guys. And then by the third song, we're like, okay, this is going pretty nicely. And also it's just completely different style of, or just setting of recording for me, like go in and focus on one track for that day, leaving, getting, if not all of it, then like 95% of it done in one day and basically not taking 10 songs and doing pieces of them all at once. So like after, three or four of those, we're like, well, this is a great way to make a record, great way to write a record, like basically like on the fly, like write it, schedule a date, record it without thinking too much about it, without like demoing it, just kind of first instinct stuff. And like the song's still fresh. And also, in my head, like the song would need to be good enough to justify spending an entire day on it. Because if it's not
Mm-hmm.
that good and you get bored with it, then like what's it even doing here? So, every day we were in there was special because sometimes you get a batch of songs and you think that they're all good, and then after you might feel like, oh, maybe these two aren't so good. They're just kind of album filler, and that's why, at least to me, this new record doesn't really feel like any album filler because every session was so dedicated and had its purpose, and like the way this record, Somewhere Sideways, Same as You, is like the track list. Like the first song on the record is the first song that we made, and then that I wrote, and we came and recorded like on that date. And the 11th song, the final song, is the 11th session we had. It's all done in
Oh,
order,
cool.
but the way it was written, the way it was recorded, we would get like halfway through, and I would have some like song titles or ideas of songs, and I would send it out to the band, going like, "Hey, do you want a song called "The Mystery of Being a Boy," or do you want a song called "Furrowed Brow" to be done today?" And then they go, "Furrowed Brow." It's like, okay, well then I'm going to choose to finish writing this song, and 2 days later we'll record it. But regardless, like track 8 is the 8th day in the studio, track 11's the last day, et cetera, et cetera.
It's interesting that you're talking about album filler because I remember, when I was a kid at the dawn of CDs, that
Mhm.
I felt like CDs were the ones that really kind of gave you that ability to skip over songs completely. Like before that,
Right,
you'd have to kind of like fast forward, and it was just easier to leave the tape play.
right,
And now it's almost like it seems like bands are have this pressure to release content constantly. So it almost feels like album filler is a thing of the past. Like, do you kind of
right.
have that same pressure to like constantly have a
Well,
single?
yeah. There's that. And then, like you're saying with the series, like you could skip that over. And of course, with like Spotify and anything like that, like someone can just go pick a record or like go to a record on Spotify. And obviously, like just by that, there's not that much of an emotional time commitment. At least going to go buy a CD or get a CD, like you're at least purchasing it, you're taking it home, you're opening up. This is a thing that you chose to
Mm-hmm.
do. So you hope that you have a little bit of invested interest. Whereas like Spotify or something just like from my almighty throne, from my phone, I pick this thing and I'm just going to scroll through. And if it doesn't grab me within 10 seconds, I'll move on. And it's not, I don't think it's the way that content's supposed to be absorbed or the way that songs supposed to be listened to. I don't think songs are supposed to be listened to one time.
Yeah.
Just like I don't think movies are intended to really be able to watch one time. Or I don't think if I'd only watched the Arrested Development episodes one time, there'd be so much
Oh,
that
you'd miss
yes.
90% of the jokes.
Right. That,
Yeah.
that and like, and like Seinfeld and anything like that. So it's, yeah, but we are in this new age where like, you got to do the TikTok thing and every song better be, great or, great, but also like have a certain, you know, social media goal or narrative or something. But, but for this record, and that's kind of why I wanted to stop making records
Mm-hmm.
because you put all this effort into these songs and like, people might just hear the 3 focus tracks if that at all. And, I'm precious about what an album is and a collection and the time, but it seems to be kind of moving away from that. So when we made this new record, the reason why I fell in love with it so much is just like felt like a really pure, organic way to make a record for me, and it tells a story for me, and like it's the closest. And I like all the records I made before, but this one, you want the thing that you're currently working on to feel like it's the best thing you've done, but like not only that, but also just felt like it it serves an artistic purpose where it's not just like I'm trying to make this content so I can release and hope people listen to it because at the end of the day, like I make records for me and then maybe for like the people I play it with,
Mm-hmm.
or if someone enjoys my music or is a fan or goes to the shows or follows my discography or anything, that's awesome, and I hope that they appreciate the evolution of my recordings. But really, you know, I'm just kind of alone in my own head always. And like if I'm listening to it, and if I like it, and if it feels like a pure moment, then I'm happy. And then I guess that's me being as artistic as I can be without like just kind of selling out or something. Not I mean, if there's an opportunity to sell out or something, like I would take it. I would try to make it in the most artistic way as possible. But it just felt for those 11 studio sessions where we did the 11 tracks, and I felt like I had a purpose. Like the song was most of these songs were finished being written like a day or two before, and it just felt like I was really caught up in something that felt real. And that was something I maybe didn't know I was searching for. But I will never go back to making a record where it's like, okay, I got these 10 songs. I need to get it all done in 5 days. I want to do one song a day forever. And like I would love to live in the studio and do one song a day till it's done, and then go, all right, keep doing the next one. But in
Yeah.
reality, being able to focus on the track and on the task at hand is like to put your 100% into it, not going like, well, let's just get a drum take or two so we can move on. Like we want to be perfect.
And I like that idea where the songs are in order in which you recorded them. It almost could feel like autobiographical, like between song 1 and song 11, it could track like what's
Absolutely.
going on in your life pretty accurately, which I think is really an interesting
Absolutely.
aspect.
There's a lot of callbacks in the record, like a lot of like either hook callbacks or even some lyric callbacks. So, you know, my writing is a bit more abstract anyway, but it definitely feels like it doesn't feel like coherent and like the running through of a complete like thought of whatever headspace I was in for those few months where the songs were coming out.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of this discussion is making me think about I have a friend who like will put on an album and like that a lot of people have music on as background. Like he gets the
Right.
out, he buys a vinyl, he sits with the vinyl cover and reads the liner notes and listens from track 1 to whatever track is the end track in a chair in a room. The TV's not on. Like he is actively listening, and I feel like that's something that's starting to evaporate. And
Absolutely.
I feel like the album art has something to do with that. Is like I remember as a kid like going through the CD booklet or the album, and there was a lot there, and it's a something my kids will never get to experience really.
Yeah, that was always my favorite part of like purchasing a record is like hoping that there were good liner notes and like I wanted to see who played what, who wrote what, who produced what, where, I love seeing bands where like, oh, that person's a drummer, but they actually played a little piano on this track. I always
Mm-hmm.
love seeing stuff like that and knowing who played on records, especially, the bigger the record is, like I always loved the conversation about John Hyatt's Bring the Family record going like, Nick Lowe played bass on it, and Ryan Cooder played guitar, and Jim Keltner played drums, and it's a great lineup. And just like nerd stuff like that. And the way your friend listens to music, like you hope that's how the people listen to music, and that's how I try to be. But sometimes I'm guilty of just like I'm gonna put it on while doing the dishes or in the car. I love listening to music in the car.
Yeah.
Some of my favorites are like on a walk, on a run, or something like that. But yeah, you definitely want there are people out there who are like avid listeners. It's something that I always have mentioned with like my other music friends is like, you gotta understand no one listens or thinks about it as like deeply as you would about your own stuff. Like no one's really thinking too hard about how the drums sound or how fuzzy that one fuzz pedal is or how, if that harmony is like a little too high or a little too low. I do. Like I sometimes will listen to someone else recording and go like, man, I would have turned up that harmony or I would have turned down that tambourine just a little bit. But that's just me nerding out, and that's not how the majority of people's relationship with music. I know it's almost an unhealthy. I have an unhealthy relationship with music and content in general,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't want my daughter to be as obsessed about Marvel comic stuff as I am, even though
I
I
mean, there's nothing
enjoy
wrong with that.
nothing wrong with that, but I wanted what I if she was into I want her to be into something, but you know
Well, I
I
mean,
guess there's nothing wrong with that. Having a passion for something and being super into it, but like sometimes it can be stressful because you're like talking about someone else and you're like, I don't care nearly about this much as you do, and so it just it can be a lonely thing if you open up that door and you start like really getting the music thing, and you kind of realize that maybe not everyone is as neurotic about it as you are.
yeah, absolutely. And it's that weird fine line between being super nerdy about it and really passionate.
Right.
That's where it starts to blur. And I mean, I have 2 kids myself, and I remember when they were very little, I consciously, I was of the era where kids were seen and not heard, but I'm like, I want my kids to feel like I'm there to listen, and I will always
Yeah.
listen to whatever they have to say,
Mhm.
which means now almost almost 21 years later, I have heard way more wrestling talk than I
Right.
ever would like to in my entire life, but it's what he's
Right.
passionate about. So tell me more about people I don't know
Right.
aggressively hugging, and it's
Right.
fine.
Right. Absolutely.
What's her name?
Her name's Lila.
Lila.
Yeah.
Cute. Um, so you said you don't want her to be obsessed, but are do you any part of you want her to kind of follow you into music interest or
Well, in general, I just want her to be passionate about, and maybe I didn't really give that theory about being obsessed with something too much thought, but like, I guess, well, what I was saying, like my thoughts on Spider-Man, like, can sometimes maybe like one might consider that a waste of time. But I enjoy it, and
yeah,
same thing for like other bands and stuff. And like, I want her to have passions and interests. I mean, that's the thing that I want the most for my children is just for her to be interested in something. If she wants to play piano or guitar, great. If she wants to paint, great. If she wants to, you know, work on a farm, I mean, or be, anything she wants to, as long as it, interests her, because there are people who they don't care much about food, they don't care much about music, they're just kind of like drifting, and you don't want that. Yeah, so a healthy obsession with things is important, passion
yeah.
for sure.
And I would agree that an obsession with Spider-Man pre Tom Holland would be a waste of time.
Right. Right, but then I'm in my mid 30s, and it's just like the getting is so good with the Tom Holland stuff,
Oh,
and it's like,
like they grew him in a lab somewhere to be Spider-Man.
right,
Like I don't know how
he's
that happened.
perfect, and I can't wait to go see the unrated or whatever, the 11 minutes of new footage that they're going to do. Like they're releasing it back in the theaters in September. Uh,
The last
no
Spider-Man?
Way Home. Yeah,
Oh,
No Way
really?
Home. Yeah, with 11 minutes of extra scenes that I guess they cut from
Now I
it.
got to go see that too. I
Right.
did not know
Exactly.
about that.
Exactly.
My biggest Marvel gripe right now is just like too much. Slow down.
It's true, but I did
Yeah.
like She-Hulk. I liked the
I
first episode.
yeah, I've seen the first episode. I liked it a lot. I
Yeah.
was kind of surprised.
Yeah, I was very super pleasant. I can't wait for tomorrow's episode. And yeah, it's a little too much. I didn't really like Thor that much. But that Wakanda Forever trailer is like one of the greatest trailers I've seen.
Yeah.
Period.
It, I'm still on the fence about Thor. I think I want to see it again.
Yeah, I'll
I
probably
felt
see it
like there was a lot of overacting. Like
again.
but I can't tell if it was on purpose because it was from Korg's perspective as he told the story. But
I just
yeah.
think they had a run of. Yeah, I really liked him in Age of Ultron, but Ragnarok into Infinity War and Endgame are just it's perfect Thor stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to continue to. They should have given it time. And also, now spoiler, the thing that I was really really upset about, the one thing that I was most upset about with Thor was that he and Rocket didn't even exchange a word. And so much of what Infinity War and Endgame was even,
Oh yeah.
one of my favorite parts was their relationship.
Yeah.
And they didn't even say one word to each other. And it just felt, I don't know, it felt like forced. And I really like Taika Waititi. I'm not sure what went wrong there. But I mean, I had a good time. It just
Yeah.
wasn't quality or anything. But the show, I mean, I really like Loki. I love Loki and WandaVision and Captain America or Falcon Winter Soldier. And I'm excited for more She-Hulk.
Yeah. I thought Miss Marvel was great too. I thought
That
that
was
was
good. That
yeah.
was really good. I thought they've all been good. I've enjoyed
Yeah.
them all, even Moon Knight and Hawkeye.
Oh
They're
yeah.
fun.
Oh, I see Hawkeye I loved, and I think it was because it was that dad thing, like,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
trying to get home. Have you has your experience playing music changed it in the past 6 months?
Yes, for sure. And also like the times leading up to having her. I live in Athens, which is very much a music town, and
Hmm.
easy to get around and easy to kind of put a show together, and I have I'm fortunate to be working with a lot of good bands, not just my own, but some that I play and some that I help manage. But I also have a Oasis tribute called Broasis, and we do
Okay.
that every once in a while. But we so basically when playing shows and just looking at that, obviously don't do it as much and in general. And when I do, it's like, you know, this could be the last time doing it, or just like being really appreciative of playing. And so like no time for being nervous. Cause
Yeah.
like, even like practicing, like getting to practice, like I like to like get it out. Like, it's just as important as, trying to exercise or read or, just do things that make you happy. And it's like good for the soul. And like, I don't worry, I don't ever get nervous anymore because like, hey, I'm here to play because I want to play. Like,
Right.
and I want the experience of playing. I want experience of doing a good job. I want to see how I can handle in a situation, and I love me. I love doing it. So there's no like nerves anymore. It's very purposeful because if it's not fun, then what? Or and if it's not scratching a certain itch, and if it's not making me happy, then I I could just be spending more time with my daughter.
Right.
Like it's not like chasing anything. It's just like this is a time to express this, and also looking more for some like early day stuff. So hopefully she can go. But yeah, it's just I have a more prior to being a dad. It was just like, all right, let's see what's going to happen, and like try and get out there. And now it's just like a little more tactful
Yeah.
with yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how much they change you. I remember my son was a couple months old, and my ex-wife was out with him somewhere, and I was watching Dennis Quaid movie. I think it's called The Rookie,
Yeah, yeah,
where he's like this old guy who's
yeah.
signed with the baseball, and he's like, there was a conversation between him and his wife, and he's like, I just want to prove to my son that he can do anything. My ex comes home, and she's like, are you crying? And I'm like, he's doing it for his son. It's just this weird, just total change that like affects your life in ways you would never expect.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely want, I would like to do, and also like, in terms of continuing to do music, I want to do it in a way that I think that she would either be into it or proud of it or not embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
So like I know I have a few years before she starts getting embarrassed. So like either if the embarrassment can't stop, then I'll just stop in time before she becomes a teenager or something.
Yeah. I was gonna say you got like 10 or 11 years before they're
Yeah.
embarrassed by you.
Yeah.
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 So you were saying how like you have music in the background and stuff when you're running or just cooking or doing whatever. Do you find there's different styles that maybe it's more pop, less meaningful music that when you're doing something to kind of distract like a task of some kind
Just
or
depends. Because like I love a lot of music that might be considered, like slacker music or whatever, or just
yeah,
like music that just kind of like, or just like listening to Shame, that band, and just like this is just like I can turn off my brain and just like be cleaning and just kind of like moving my body and enjoying the music. And if I wanted to access a little bit more of my brain, listen to like what they're saying and like kind of think about the whole like scene and stuff. But I can definitely listen to certain aspects of music without thinking too much. Like another favorite artist of mine, Rufus Wainwright's very just like very musical musically and very complicated and very pretty and stuff and like some serious topics in his lyrics, but I actually don't even like it's usually the melody that I'm always attracted to first, especially when I'm listening to something. So like it just depends, and like but I definitely like I don't try and shy away from any sort of if it's in that all moods go,
yeah,
anytime. And if you see what I'm listening to, it can be pretty all over the place where I could be listening to Third Eye Blind 1 minute and Elliott Smith the next, and you know some lute music or something, just like some old like lute recordings or some classical or print, a lot of Prince, or you know, just anything. Just that's all over the place.
Yeah. I just had a interview with a guy from the UK, and he had no idea who Prince was.
Really,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I was listening to someone. I did a music podcast with a buddy of mine, and we were talking and use Death Cab for Cutie as an example, and it's totally fine to not know or to not like Death Cab. I do like Death Cab for Cutie, but it's perfectly fine to not like them. But he just had like no idea who they were, and
Yeah.
it's not even and it's not like Death Cab for Cutie is the coolest band on the planet. It's like how do you not know who they are? Like if you have a music podcast, like
Right.
you can hate them, but you still need to know who they are.
Yeah.
But just
It's funny how like there's just like weird, kind of empty spots in people's experience and like kind of getting back to movies. Like I've never seen The Godfather. I'm
right,
almost 50. I've never seen that
right.
movie.
But you need to
And
see it.
and that's what everyone tells me. And I'm like, yep, okay, I'll put it on.
And
Just
I
never get
have
around to
gaps
it.
like I have gaps like that too. My band, this from the new record, called Sunshine, like Drew Beskin, the Sunshine. But those I had those guys over last night to my house because since we started making this record almost 2 years ago, and we would be talking about a lot about the Beatles and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and we would talk about like a little bit about Fountains of Wayne and stuff like that. And I mentioned like as like like in That Thing You Do, like we haven't seen that movie. It's like you got to see That Thing You
Oh,
Do
it's a
for
great movie.
a great movie,
Yeah.
and for like for multiple reasons. Like all the music's original, like even Tom Hanks wrote some of the songs,
Hmm.
um but all the songs are really good, and like hey, cool musical like are kind of hard to find. Like all these kids have seen Sing Street, which is a great movie as well, but they've never seen the thing you do. So I was like, all right, wife's out of town, baby's here. I'm gonna cook. Y'all come over, we're gonna eat, and then we're gonna watch That Thing You Do. No phones, no talking. Just gonna
Yeah.
watch the movie, and they all loved it. And we were just talking about, and they're all about at least 10 years younger than me. So there's definitely gonna be some gaps. Like they've never seen Armageddon, never seen Idiocracy. They've
I've
seen
never
good stuff.
seen Armageddon, really? I feel like
Yeah,
that's
yeah. It's like we
wow.
gotta see Armageddon. We gotta watch Idiocracy. Idiocracy, great movie.
Yeah. It's great and disturbing.
Yes, yes.
It's I didn't think it was prophetic when I watched it the first time.
Right. But
Yeah.
it got there quickly.
What other music are you listening to right now? You mentioned Shame, who I've not heard of, so I made a note to have to check them out.
They're fantastic. They're kind of like you listen to Fontaine DC or anything like that.
Hmm.
They're kind of like that. I'm pulling up my Spotify to see what I've been listening to lately. I got excited about the new Arctic Monkeys album that they announced.
I do like
Um,
them, yeah.
let's see. Tony Molina released this guy does like minute long songs, and so the album's like 15 minutes, but they're great. My band, we're doing a Beatles tribute set when we do our album release, so I've been listening to a
Nice.
lot of Beatles and just kind of prepping on that. Always listening to a bit of Oasis. Been listening to some Olivia Newton-John since she passed away.
Oh
Just
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of revisiting some of that stuff, and yeah. And then just a lot of like other local Athens artists I kind of work with. I've been listening to a lot of their music, like Hefner and Well Kept and Elijah Johnston and the Pink Stones. And trying to think, I'm just kind of looking through here. Always a lot of Elliott Smith, always a lot of Prince, always a lot of always a lot of Oasis. During the record, listened to a lot of Kinks. We just recorded a Kinks cover that will probably release at the end of the year. Um, a lot of Big Thief, and so a good bit of Robert Palmer. Dug into some like
Hmm.
Johnny and Mary era, like Robert Palmer stuff. And let's see who else. Dire Straits, Elvis Costello. Um, yeah, I've been
Yeah.
listening. I'm a big fan of Blake Mills, the producer and guitarist and songwriter, as well as Ethan Gruska, who's also producer, more famous for being a producer. His grandfather's John Williams, but he's
Oh,
also a
really?
great producer. He worked on the most recent Manchester Orchestra record and Phoebe Bridgers records, but he's a good singer songwriter in his own right as well. And he just did release like this duet song with Bonnie Bear that's really good,
Nice.
and a lot of Bee Gees, as always.
Yeah, my landlady listens to the Bee Gees a lot. It's crazy.
Yep.
So I mean, we plugged a ton of people there, but where can people go to check out your stuff? I mean,
My
all the
stuff, Spotify's great because of the playlist, and that's the whole world simps to.
yeah,
But we're on all the digital outlets. I have a website, just my name, drewbeskin.com. And then we have a Bandcamp page where you can order some merch and including vinyl, including pre-order of vinyl for the new record. And I think we're making some new t-shirts soon as well.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, merch is always the way to go. We're working on t-shirts ourselves, so
Yeah.
always something. And the new album comes out September 23rd,
Yeah.
somewhere sideways, same as you. And I'm assuming that's going to be available all the normal
Yeah.
places that people can
All
buy.
normal places, vinyl, and we're going to be releasing some music videos, some live videos, and doing a few shows, mainly around the Georgia area. And we'll also, we're releasing another single I think it's next Tuesday, the 30th. So excited for that. And we'll probably release one more single before the record comes out.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome, man. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. And
Thank
again,
you.
congrats on the new baby.
Thank you very much.
And so this is, I think, episode 302. I think this is 302.
That's
And
awesome.
we've been doing it forever. And some of our other podcasts have sign-offs, and a lot of podcasts I listen to have sign-offs. And it always bothered me I didn't have one for the show. So my new thing is I put it on the guest. So give us a sign-off, a bit of information, advice, whatever you think is great closing words, and we'll end there.
You said we're allowed to curse?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. The sign off should be from me, or before your show. Buy my fucking records, everyone. That's what everyone needs to do. That's how they can live. That's a good way for them to live their life, is to buy my fucking records.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. So thanks again for listening.